Hi, and we're very lucky to be with Joe Lamond, who is the CEO and president of NAMM. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. Good to see everyone.
It's good to see you.
I wish I could be there in person, but it's good to see everyone on Zoom.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, is it? It's totally affected everybody's world, and
Unbelievable.
I know. Obviously, big news from you guys last week with the press release coming on about the changes to the show. But can you just run us through the changes again for those that haven't picked up on what's actually happening now with Winter NAMM?
Yeah, the year has not unfolded like anyone had predicted, as we all know, right? I mean, if you think about where we were in June and even into July for our show in Nashville, it was very positive. The vaccines were coming out, and it was looking like for a brief moment we were actually on the other side of the pandemic. Late July, early August, the Delta variant emerged in a big way and really very quickly overcame the conversation about, no, we're not done with this, and we might not actually be done with this for a while, seemingly with other variants down the road. So we had to really think carefully about the health and safety of bringing everyone together in January. And that was a big responsibility. Obviously, it's a time when even a normal flu year might be, not ideal. So there were a couple of key factors. That was one. Obviously, the health and safety it's always been a factor for us. Health and safety has generally been more about crowd control and thinking about anti-terrorism and all the things that were so prevalent in the last 20 years of doing these large events. But this one was particularly tough because not only was it happening here in the US, but travel bans affected the ability for us to gather everyone around the globe. NAMM is a global show, and especially having all our friends from UK come. I can't imagine doing it without you guys. And so the reality is, not only were travel bans in place now, and the direction of the emerging Delta variant and others was really showing us that those travel bans were not going to drop. And we were thinking by June and July that all those things are going to come down as everything improves. Travel bans are going to come down. The ability to move freely, this just broke the other way. It actually went against us. So the ability to not do a global show was a big part of the decision. And then I think maybe an additional really big part of our decision was talking to big exhibitors, small exhibitors all over the globe, basically hearing that not only have they had trouble serving existing orders in their customers, getting stuff into the marketplace, that most of them have shared with me that they had little time to create a lot of new products. They were just doing their very best to get orders out the door with existing product, and even that was a challenge. And so the idea of coming into a show with maybe showing products that were at the 2020 NAMM show and not a lot of new stuff, that's not what drives the market. The market is driven by new products and new innovative products for serving our music making community. So health and safety, travel bans, and the likelihood that we wouldn't see a lot of product in January all weighed into that decision. Moving it to June was a risk, as we all know, because do we have any certainty that any of those conditions will have changed by June? We don't. We had to weigh out that risk versus the risk of not having any type of event in 2022 for the industry. And so weighing out those two, it's like a cascading series of bad choices, right?
Yeah.
And so weighing out those two risks of not having any event at all in 22 for the global community, or trying to see if by June, will some of these conditions have improved, we chose that. We chose June. And then the ability to move a show of our size and the Rubik's Cube, as I've described it, of moving things around in the facility in Anaheim to get 2 full weeks that we need to load in, produce the event, and load out. It was a high bar of difficulty, but we did it. We, with our help, there's so many people helped, including our Anaheim community. So it became possibility. If that hadn't have been able to be accomplished, it wouldn't have been a possibility at all. Getting a show our size to move is almost impossible. but we're able to do it. We'll gather in June. We'll modify if we need to, as far as making sure that everything in the facility is safe. It was one of the first facilities to be GBAC certified, which was a new certification for safety and cleanliness. We've worked with the community about pricing. The hotels will be what they would have been in January, and it may be a little bit less. They have a high season, but it doesn't start till mid-June, is when Disneyland, and that's part of Southern California, really starts catering to the tourist travel. Early June is still a good time for us to be economically as efficient as possible. But is it perfect? Not by a long shot. Perfect would have been never having the pandemic hit in the first place.
Yeah.
The best next thing is to try and how can we serve? How can we take care of our members around the world? How can we have that type of reunion of our UK members that we had in 2020 at our member center, where everyone was, having a drink, connecting, and as you have done with the MIA, trying to create that sense of we are an industry. We are working together to move forward to create a more musical world. Another moment to accomplish that. That's in my mind's eye. That's what I see when I see how this could end up. And then we'll just do it. We're musicians. If the chart changes, we'll change quickly. I am more of a rock drummer than an improv jazz guy. Don't put anything in odd time in front of me. Don't go all Bruford on me. But I do like things fairly certain. And this has been a challenging time for your average rock drummer to navigate. But we're doing the best we can, and I think it's going to be a good one. Actually, the feedback so far is this week actually may have stumbled on something pretty cool to get everyone together in June. But we'll see. Time will tell.
And it still made more sense to bring it back to Anaheim than try and do something with Nashville then. Anaheim offers, a lot more in terms of flexibility.
The capacity, the ability to execute, it's a known for us with the all the services and vendors and hotel community, having that airport, so many LAX or Orange County Airport. Yeah, it was the better chance for us to make all that happen. We felt, again, in a basket of not great choices, we chose the best that we thought for our members,
And like you say, it's not quite full season in Anaheim. So and there's a lot of accommodation there. And like you say, there's lots of ways of getting out there. So hopefully it shouldn't impact on those kind of costs too much at all.
Yep. It's funny. I had a chart from the New York Times on the incidence of new COVID cases from its start. And the absolute lowest point on the calendar of new cases was the first week in June this past year. Now, whether that will repeat next year, who knows? But it was interesting to see that was the lowest incident of new cases was the first week in June. So maybe we'll see. Again, if anyone has a better idea, anyone has a crystal ball, I'm all ears.
When did it become obvious to you that you were going to have to make the decision? Because I guess you'd have been holding out, as long as you could. I mean, because it's that difficult thing of, I want to let people know as early as I can, but I want to also, hope we can keep the event. So when did it?
I mean, to put it in context, for your viewers, we left Summer NAMM feeling really good about the year and how that all came together, and people had a blast. It was people being together again was so euphoric that they were, seeing each other again. We were very optimistic about January. And some of you may know I ride motorcycles. And after the summer show, I took a motorcycle trip 2 weeks around the country and rode back to California. And it was on that trip, here I am riding around the country, small towns, just, staying where I could, camping. And I started hearing this Delta variant. It started making a few of my headlines when I check in on the news online. By the time I got back in early August, it was starting to be in the headlines. Wow, this is something really important. And we're actually going the opposite way. We're not opening up. We're shutting back down again. And so that was probably when it really started becoming very clear. By mid-August, it was apparent. And then we had this, unbelievable task of trying to work with the city to move the event. and move other shows that were in and around those June dates, asking them, could you move for us? In a facility that size, we're one of the few that take up the whole Anaheim Convention Center.
Yeah.
Mostly it's taken up by 5 or 6 other groups at a time. Some are in Hall A, some are in E. They're just doing their thing and they all co-locate. It's smaller groups. It's a medical convention or things like that. So you're asking 4 or 5 groups to all in cooperation move for us. And they don't know us. They obviously we're nice people, but they don't know us. And so you're trying to convince them to move, and you have to do it in a very coordinated way to make sure that, you don't want to have one group hold out, which is what happened. We were looking at May dates too. We had one group that held out. You think about it as when Walt Disney was creating Disneyland and was acquiring all that land in Anaheim to create Disneyland. It was probably one little farmer who held out at the very end going, hey, I think there's something going on around here. I think my farm just got more valuable. And, we have to just be very, and again, the city was so helpful to make all that happen and did make it happen. And that took about the next week and a half. And then making sure our board was involved, making sure our executive committee, our team, our vendors, it literally was, these plates were spinning everywhere in the air. And then it was like, okay, go. And that was the Wednesday. It was a week ago. Yeah. So all that took a bit of time to coordinate all that to the point where we were able to announce. Obviously, word got out. You mentioned it. People were talking about it around the world, right? I mean, This was, you can't keep that big of a move a secret. And people were weighing in, good idea, bad idea, not a good idea. But it took some coordinating, and that's really it. The month of August was when the world tipped the other way and realized that we are not done with this pandemic, and we may not ever be done with it. It may be something we have to live with for several years, and then ultimately come to grips with our lives forever and just do the best we can, so that was
and we haven't gone through inoculating the globe yet. I mean, until the globe's jabbed, we might stand a half a chance when that's done, but we're a long way off that yet. So,
I'm not a scientist, obviously. I've made that clear because I'm a drummer, but, this thing will evolve and mutate as they all do. All viruses will mutate, and they will become less virulent, or whatever that word is. A good virus doesn't kill the host.
No.
It's a bad virus, then so this will evolve to be able to be more maybe contagious, but it will be hopefully less of a true, what the impact has been. It's been terrible. We all know people we've lost to COVID, dear loved ones, dear industry people we've lost. It's just mind-boggling that this has occurred, but over time it will evolve, and as viruses do, and hopefully become something that, as a combination of we're smarter, we know more about how to take care of ourselves. We may be healthier. This may be one of the healthier NAMM shows ever, because people will be more aware of how to take precautions, and we will be taking more precautions. But it may be something we have to live with for a while. But, the idea of music, live music, concerts, festivals, theater, all the things that brings us together around music, right? As an industry, I think we all better bet and hope and pray that we actually figure this out, because betting against being able to come together again in a musical setting, which is what music does best, that's not good for the industry. And we, as our industry, it's school music, we've got to get this back together to where we can gather safely. And again, betting against that is almost like being on a jetliner and betting against your pilot. No. We want that plane to land safely. We need to be able to bring people together again safely around all the things we know and love: school music, concerts, festivals, live theater, all the places where our members and our, what we bring to the world, music, is actually practiced. Yes, people love playing at home, but if that's all we have as an industry, that's not good for us. We need to have a thriving live music, live event scene to be able to have this industry thrive.
I agree, and we need a NAMM show that's sustainable in that respect. Not sustainable, but I mean, sustainable as we can keep doing it, and we need to find a way of doing that, which I think is great. Yeah. In the past, certainly with the event, when it was cancelled last year, You were very supportive of the exhibitors who were scheduled in. I know a lot of the UK guys, got refunds on their deposits and their payments very quickly and what have you. We're going to end up now with a situation where there's potentially 2 shows in a relatively short space of time. They're going to fall into the same financial year for a lot of companies. Have you given any thought to how you can assist, particularly the international companies for whom it's quite a significant expense?
Yeah, that again in the bag of bad choices was to do an event in 22 or just wait till 23.
Yeah.
Doing events so close together will be difficult, will be challenging for a lot of people. Yeah, if you're on, for example, a lot of the Japanese companies, their fiscal year is April 1 to March 30th. That will put 2 shows in one fiscal year.
A lot of UK companies are as well.
Yeah, and so those companies are going to be really challenged. Hopefully that they had budgeted for something in January, and then they can move that forward. But there's a lot of small companies too, a lot of small exhibitors, and NAMM is actually, if you look at the top 100 exhibitors, we all know their names. They're wonderful companies, and they drive the industry. But underneath that is another 2,000 up and coming entrepreneurs. Sometimes they pay for their trade show expenses on a credit card, and so there's just this whole underneath that top layer is the robustness of the industry, in my opinion. Those who are coming up, creating completely new product categories, new segments, and for them that will be equally challenging, even though it's not a fiscal accounting type thing. They're just trying to get by. We'll do the best we can. Hopefully by January 23, the market will have stabilized. There's a lot of unnatural inputs into the marketplace right now with government stimulus and stay-at-home orders, and then all the impact from labor shortages and chip shortages that have affected supply and the supply chain. The cost of container ships, the availability of container ships, everything is distorted right now. And by 23, we believe a lot of that will have been worked through the system. It has to. Entrepreneurs right now are figuring out ways to solve those bottlenecks. Really smart people are figuring out solutions. Those problems they'll be solved in some time. So maybe by 23, we'll have reached some level of equilibrium where the 23 show may be where we start seeing what the world will look like post-pandemic. It's hard to tell, again, with no crystal ball. We're sort of making the best decisions in real time with the information we have. That will be a challenge, having 2 shows in that short a time. One of the things that at least is in the back of my mind is I have had many manufacturers actually say to me that a later show like June might be better for them in their current product launch cycles. Too soon to tell, but that may be something. And if that is true, then we may actually see this thing move towards a late spring annual show.
Right.
We have to be open to that. We look back in history over, NAMM's history, 120 years, there's been these seismic shifts that have generally been driven by outside forces. Pandemics in 1918, world wars or Great Depressions. They may be moving us in a way that we don't know yet. And one of the things we should at least be open to is that maybe there will be 1 show a year, maybe it'll be late spring.
Yeah. And I guess, as you'd expect, people can just get in touch and talk to you. The challenge, this particular challenge it might present over the course of the next year, that's what you're there for. I guess people reach out, talk to you, work out the best way forward, because everybody's going to want to be there, and everybody's going to, want to network, and B, want to share what they've got. So one final question, and thank you, before I forget, thank you for your time today. But Believe in Music Week was a really bold move, and a lot of time and effort went into that platform. I was very impressed with the actual platform itself and what it could do, and it seemed to be very successful. What are the plans for a future event to mix some of that hybrid technology with the in-person experience?
Great question. We learned a lot. And that platform we used is the go-to platform right now. It's been used by most of the large events here. We actually helped, work out the kinks on this new technology. We learned a lot. We learned what worked and what didn't work. I haven't seen most show organizers have not figured out a way to have virtual in any way replicate a physical event. There's just still that great divide, and maybe VR or other ways are going to solve that technologically, but there's still a big gap between doing a virtual event and a physical event. We are going to do a virtual event again in January. We think we still need to have a launch of ability to have new products, education, and that networking. So Friday the 21st of January, we're going to have a Believe in Music global live stream. The anchor desk, great interviews, entertainment. It'll be a real, a fundraising opportunity for the NAMM Foundation. 2 days before will be different channels of education and product launch. So we'll have a 3-day event in January. In June, what we've learned from this technology is it'll be laid on top of or overlaid on the physical show. So we will be able to reach globally with the virtual event in June. We picked up 50 countries over what had normally been at a physical NAMM show with Believe in Music Week. We had over 180 countries. We want to replicate that. So we will have, for the people who cannot come to June show, they'll have the virtual event on top of it. For those who can come to the June show, that technology will actually, I like to use the expression, it'll make them supercharged. It'll be like they have a twin, because having that technology in your pocket means you can be monitoring education while you're getting to a meeting in an exhibit, or you can be networking with friends in a different hall and set up a meeting while you're watching this network of that we have on top of the NAMM show. You can see education on demand when you get back to your room. If you couldn't see the breakfast session, you can watch it on demand when you get back to your room. So the idea of making your time in Anaheim be twice as effective using that technology. So we'll use it as a way to reach those who can't come, and those who are there with us in Anaheim, really make sure there's more return on investment for their being there by making their time there more effective, more efficient, and more productive.
And of course, if they're producing assets and things anyway for the event, then great, you can spread those around to, a whole different audience. So you're right. In that respect, it works perfectly. Just to wrap up, and I say thank you very much for finding the time today. We've got a face-to-face event, our first face-to-face event next week on the 23rd of September, and I know Betty's going to be there to answer questions, and we're going to see through the miracle of technology if we can have you in the room as well. But that might prove challenging because I believe you're going to be on a boat somewhere.
Well, there's a group of NAMM members. We are affectionately call ourselves the Fishing Musicians. It's been 25 years now. Every fall, we go somewhere in the West in these beautiful mountain rivers and we trout fish. And then we play music at night. And so it's names that everyone would recognize. And the only challenge for me is, one, I'll have to find the hot spot that I can use my phone and actually greet everybody, either from the lodge or from literally on a riverside before we start fishing. But two, in the part I'm most concerned about, and it actually causes me great distress, is the other drummer on the trip is Danny Serafin from Chicago. And so, in the trade-off of the evening when we're all playing music, there's guitar players everywhere, keyboard players everywhere. Those are a dime a dozen. It's Greg Mackey, me, and Danny Serafin are the drummers. And how do you get up on the drum set and try and play after seeing Danny Serafin just masterly, do what he does best? So I'm quite concerned. I hope I can get some sympathy from your members as well, that I've been practicing, but I'm up against it. How do I compete against a world-class drummer who has still got all the chops in the world? So if I do connect from the river or from the lodge, I might be dejected after having been humiliated the night before in the jam. So anyway, I'll do my best. Yeah.
I'm a guitarist. I'm part of the group that doesn't know how to give any sympathy or support to a drummer. So I don't even know where to start with that, Joe. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I don't. I'll set a low bar as far as my expectations. How's that?
Listen, thank you again. It's been great to talk to you. Hopefully we'll see you maybe for a few minutes in person next week.
I hope to. And congratulations on getting everyone together. You're going to enjoy it. Everyone is going to be so happy just to be in the same room. And so credit to you and the MIA for actually making all that happen. We just are really proud of what you're doing and how you're doing it. You've just done a fantastic job, and we are happy to partner with you on this. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Joe. Take care.